Hello. How are you doing? I'm great. Recording this Monday. Just a programming note. I'll record something for you tomorrow, Tuesday. I will not be recording a thing on Wednesday. I have to drive my son to the University of Kentucky where he's going to be enrolling. Pretty psyched about that for him. Going to miss him, of course. But then I'm turning around and driving back. So I'm doing like 12 hours of driving back and forth. So I will not be recording anything on any platform. Let's dig in. So my buddy Dale Lawley put this out on his 10 thoughts on Steelers.com. And I meant to bring it up about the Tampa game. And I don't know why I didn't, but he nailed it. And I know that winning and losing doesn't really matter in that instance, but I do think it's noteworthy that Tampa played more of their good guys, way more of their good guys than the Steelers. But you know how I like my stats. I mean, it's tough to win, guys, when you are just 2 out of 12 on third downs, turned the ball over 3 times, and you guys know me, and Dale and I quote this the same way. You also missed a field goal, and you failed a 4th down attempt, which is really the equivalent of 5 turnovers. So you hung with a team that had better players than you, and you basically had 5 turnovers and were 2 of 12 on third downs. Okay? You don't win games like that very often. And they didn't. Okay, the news of the day in Steelerland, again, as I'm recording this. Adam Schefter reports that Gabe Davis is coming back to Pittsburgh for a visit. And I assume, no one's told me this, but I know how these things work. I was at the facility the first time he was here, and he was walking around there happy as could be wearing Steeler gear. I mean, that doesn't mean that he was about to become a Steeler, but I'm almost certain the reason he did not become a Steeler was because of his knee. So I think what they told him at that point was, we love you. Here's the contract we can give you. He's probably like, cool, that contract works. I don't think that'll be a big contract, probably a 1-year deal, $4 million, something like that. I'm just guessing. Not a deal breaker. They're a monster deal. But your knee has not checked out at that time. Come back. When you think your knee's right, give us a little bit of time between then and the opening day, so we can practice with you, so we don't just throw to the Wolves, a minute before kickoff in week 1. And if your knee checks out, we got a deal. You can compete with Calvin Austin to be our number 2 receiver, different style receiver, and I'll tell you about him in a minute. And my guess is by the time you listen to this, he'll either have left town without a contract, and that means his knee is not right, or he will be a Pittsburgh Steeler, which is probably the case, or he wouldn't have come in here unless his doctor said the knee is good. He injured it week 11 of last year, so it was late in the year. I'm fine with it. I would not have been fine with post-Pickens trade, all you add is Jonnu, or post-Pickens trade, all you add was Gabe Davis. But the combination of the two, I can piece together now with the other existing pieces a pass-catching group that I can live with. Wilson, as mentioned, is basically a slot only. Austin is slot or outside. Does both, I would say, equally well, but maybe you'd want him in the slot more. And I don't know if Austin or Davis would be your true number 2 when you only have 2 receivers on the field. Could make a case for both. Maybe it's different depending on the team. They're both field stretchers. Davis is way bigger. I looked this up. I didn't realize he was 225 pounds at his combine. I mean, I thought he was like 210, a little over 6 foot. He is thick, powerful guy. Now, I've always thought he was a smidge overrated. Kind of a one-trick pony, very much a one-trick pony. And I thought the Jags were crazy for the contract they gave him. And frankly, they kind of were. That was too much money for what he brings. But that's not his fault for signing a big contract that he wasn't quite worth. And those type of receivers are expensive in today's market. You look at like Denami Brown and Palmer and some of these dudes that signed this offseason, they're getting 10-ish million just to be kind of one-trick ponies. I think it'd be less than that. But that's what he does. He is a big, physical, outside the numbers field stretcher with size, speed, and blocks. Has a very good reputation as a blocker, which is we know is important. So I'm fine with that skill set. I mean, he's not Pickens, obviously. He's not Tyreek Hill in terms of speed and scaring people or anything like that. But he gets downfield. And even with Russell Wilson gone, I think the Steelers will throw a lot of vertical outside the number passes. Rodgers still does that well. It was a Wilson thing, but it's also an Arthur Smith thing. And I think he would round out that receiver room pretty well. And frankly, I expect it to get done unless his knee is a problem. So that's what you'll be getting. I'd be cool with it. You know, he's not Antonio Brown or John Stallworth guys, but he is a quality field stretcher and would keep their receiving core fast. I mean, between him, Austin, and Metcalf, that is a very fast trio. Two of the three are quite sizable as well. He's not going to nickel and dime you with out routes and comebacks and bubble screens and things like that. He's a bit of a one-trick pony, but it's a pretty good trick, and it's a trick they could use, and the size is important to me, and you don't have to give anything up for him. When I was trying to get in that scouting world way back when I was a young up-and-comer, I wish there was a ZipRecruiter type service out there, and there sure wasn't. And ZipRecruiter finds amazing candidates for you fast. And right now you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/audio. ZipRecruiter's smart technology identifies top talents for your roles quickly. Immediately after you post your job, ZipRecruiter's powerful matching technology starts showing you qualified people for it. It's wonderful. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try it for free at this exclusive web address, ZipRecruiter.com/audio. Again, that's ZipRecruiter.com/audio. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. Two things in the division I wanted to talk about here is, first off, it sure sounds like, by all accounts, that Trey Hendrickson's time in Cincinnati is over. That the team actually came out and said, all right, we're actually going to listen to trade offers, you know. And I'll tell you right now, the Bengals are notorious for being the most difficult team in the league to trade with. So this doesn't mean that a deal will get done. I'm sure they're asking too much. They just always do. That's their reputation. But I also get the feeling that this bridge may have officially now been burned into the river. That that Hendrickson and the Bengals will never be part of the same culture anymore. This is tough on them because, first off, I think the teams that would be interested are going to be your better teams. You know, your Bills, Lions, Commanders, Bears. You know, teams that have playoff aspirations, Packers, you know, I mean, so if they were to get a late pick or a pick for them, which I assume will be the compensation, I don't know if they get a first, but if so, it's probably a playoff first, you know, something later than 20 and maybe much later. Lions win the Super Bowl with Trey Hendrickson and Aiden Hutchinson. But the problem here for me, if you're the Bengals, is you have serious playoff aspirations too. And if you're moving your best defensive player off a terrible defense, I would think you'd want something to help you now, not just picks. And that's going to be really hard to pull off this time of year. Are you going to get a quality player in return and a pick or whatever? I bet the answer is no. So my point is, I very much expect Hendrickson to get traded. Not a done deal. But I also expect the Bengals, the 2025 Bengals, to be worse because of it. Because what kind of player are you going to get? You'd love to get anything on defense, but I just don't know that that's how the trade will go down. All right, the other news in the division in the state of Ohio is Joe Flacco has been named the starter. Not surprising whatsoever. He has not gotten a lot of reps in training camp because they have too many quarterbacks and too many rookies, a lot of whom have been injured. This doesn't surprise me at all. I will concede it gives the Browns the best chance to win right this minute. But I also think he is a very hit or miss guy at this stage of his career. He's had some high moments, but he's very Jameis Winston-esque in terms of, boy, he makes big-time throws, but he puts the ball in harm's way a lot now. And he does not move well or buy time. And I very much expect Sanders but probably Gabriel, the two rookies, to get plenty of playing time, not because of injury, but I'm sure Flacco will take a lot of hits behind a bad offensive line. And here is the... how awful is this if you're Cleveland? This is how the Browns start the season before they come to Pittsburgh in Week 6. Hang on to this. They host the Bengals. They're definitely going to be a dog in that in Week 1, no doubt. At Baltimore, they're going to be a huge dog in that one. Host the Packers, big dog in that game. At Detroit, probably double-digit dog in that game. And then they take on the Vikings overseas, and Minnesota will have just played the Steelers overseas in Ireland, and will have been there for 2 weeks. And then they go to Pittsburgh directly after that. So not only do the Browns have an awful 5-game stretch before coming here Week 6, they don't get a bye week after their Europe game. The game's in London, and they have to go on the road. So they got back-to-back games in London and then on the road here. I know it's not a far trip, but that is brutal scheduling. They absolutely could be 0-5 and probably should be 0-5 and worn out on their way to Pittsburgh in Week 6. I give Flacco like a 33% chance of even still being the starter at that point. I mean, the season might be over at 0-5, and they could be making golf reservations by the time they play the Steelers. I mean, it could go that bad that quick for this team. So, this Flacco news doesn't change my opinion on the Browns season, but it does influence the Steelers a little bit. I think they will go through numerous quarterbacks in Cleveland. The other news out of the Browns that I wanted to talk about too is their second-round pick, a running back I really liked out of Ohio State. I'm sure you watched him some. Judkins has been cleared of his off-the-field stuff. However, the Browns, he's still unsigned, have come out and said, yes, that's great, but we're not going to present a contract to him until the NFL is done with their investigation, which is different than the legal side. There's the real-world legal side. He has been cleared, but the NFL can still sniff around on this, and they can make their own decision. That's not great. I mean, I guess it's great in that one part of it is out of, and he absolutely could be 100% innocent. I have no idea. But that's a key component that they might not have for a while, or certainly is behind the 8 ball in terms of he hasn't practiced with the team, he hasn't signed a contract. Who has signed a contract with the Browns, though, is Isaiah Bond. Now, Isaiah Bond was a big-time prospect, went to Bama. He's smaller, but he is ridiculously fast, wide receiver. Transfers to Texas. A year ago, he was on all the lists of this guy could be a first-round pick. And he, too, got in a bunch of off-the-field issues. And he has a very poor off-the-field reputation. I've never met him. He might be a wonderful human being that is wrongly accused in all these different situations. But he was draft eligible. And not only did he go undrafted, but nobody invited him to camp. What do the Browns do today? They give him $3 million guaranteed to join the Cleveland Browns. Apparently, they were the only team that had any interest in Isaiah Bond. But none of this seems super conducive to me to winning. I'm sure the Ravens are kind of chuckling at all this as well that's going on in Ohio. But I think your Steelers should sort of chuckle at it as well. So, Gabe Davis, Ohio Talk. That's what we got today. Tomorrow we'll do something kind of previewing the game or a mailbag of some sort, which will be, I'm sure, a lot of game questions too. Going to Carolina here very soon. All right, take care.